Hey everyone, Steven here, and welcome to my little library of horrors. Well, it's certainly been a little while since I've uploaded. Once you upload a video, you think, another week, that's plenty of time to record and get uploaded, but, things happen. Kids go on vacation from school, and you get over a foot of snow in like 2 days, and then you pitch your sciatic nerve shoveling. So, yeah. That's kind of my current situation. I've basically been almost bedridden the past week just because throwing out my back while shoveling. And, so my pain medication's kicked in right now. I'm feeling okay, so I really wanted to get this video recorded and uploaded because I didn't want to make it another month without uploading a video. I hate doing that, but it just seems like the time kind of gets away from me, I really can only record when there's nobody in the house, so it's just hard to find the time, the energy, and so. But February hasn't been all bad. It's actually been a wonderful month for book hunting. I haven't been able to go out in a long time, just like I said, a mix of everything, so it's been so nice to finally get out this month. I went at the beginning of the month, just kind of went out to my favorite bookstore that I usually go to, and then for Valentine's Day, my wife had to work, but she said, go out book hunting if you want. It's my gift to you. So I was like, oh, cool. And then on Friday, my uncle and I actually got to go out, and that was really fun. But I'll explain more of that once I get to that part. But anyway, before I get into the haul, please feel free to drop a like on the video. It really helps me out, and YouTube likes that for the algorithm. So if you could, drop a quick like for me. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, let's get started. So, let's see here. So, the first book I want to show off is this beautiful copy of Leviathan by Robert McCammon, my favorite writer. And this is the final book in the Matthew Corbet series. This was actually sent to me by my good friend Jojo. Hey, Jojo. She had made a post in our Facebook group saying that her local used bookstore had a brand new copy for dirt cheap and asked if anybody wanted it. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. So she was kind enough to send me this. And now it sits very proudly in my library. So thanks, Jojo. Now, I just have to get started on the series. Speaking of which, next up is Speaks the Nightbird by Robert McCammon. And this is actually the first 2 volumes of Speaks the Nightbird combined into one large trade paperback, which was a very nice surprise, also from Jojo. I knew Leviathan was coming, but yesterday I went to check the mail and I saw I had another package from Jojo and was not expecting it at all. So when I opened it, because I had mentioned to her when I got Leviathan in, I was like, I just have to start the series. So, she must have assumed I didn't have a copy of Speaks the Nightbird, which totally fine. I'm not going to complain. This is actually awesome. This was a really nice surprise, and just another reason why I really love the book community. People are so thoughtful, and it's just nice when someone sees a book and is like, you know what? That reminds me of you. I'm going to get it for you. So, thanks again, Jojo. You're super awesome. Alrighty, let's see. Next, I actually just got in the mail today, and that is Ghostlight by Claire McNally. And I love Claire's book covers. It's like this, she kind of has a blend of like photorealism with some, I wouldn't know what to call this art style, and I don't want to sound ignorant, so. But it's the, like, a realistic photo mixed with non-realistic art, I guess. But, I believe Ghostlight is, I want to say it's the sequel to Ghost House. I'm not 100% sure. I'm almost positive. Right here. Ghost House Revenge, and Ghostlight. So this is actually the last entry in the trilogy of the Ghost House trilogy. So, yeah, I had made a random sale on Macari. I totally forgot that I even had something on there. So I was kind of looking through my saved favorites, and I saw this had been reduced to $2. So I was like, hey, you know what? I've been eyeing it for like 6 months, and like I said, patience is key. Even when online shopping, patience is key. So instead of paying about $15, $16 shipped like when I originally saw it, I paid about $7 shipped for it. So always be patient, guys. Okay, next up, let's see. I really tried to kind of organize this in a way that I can break down where the books came from, but it kind of got a little mixed up here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and see if I can remember what came from what. So let's see. That stuff is not it. It's not. Okay, all that I can save. Let's see. You know what? We'll go with this one here. Next up is The Nightmare Man by Tessa Kraling. Now, this I found, there was a thrift store near me that was having a book sale, and it was to fill a paper bag for $6 with books. So, yeah. I normally don't like super dig into the kids' books. I kind of like glance to see if there's anything I like. But I decided to take a look through the kids section and found this bad boy waiting for me. This is actually more on the uncommon side I'm seeing. As far as point horror goes, I'm not really super well versed as far as like what point horror goes for and young adult horror goes for. I'm really trying to kind of educate myself more on that. But I have kind of noticed a resurgence in like the past year with it. So was really excited to find this. You know, cool title, cool cover. Yeah, just a pretty awesome book overall. Let's see. I'm almost positive I have the other books from that book sale here somewhere. But we'll worry about that when the time comes. Let's see. Next, I got... Let's see here. I'm not worried about the sticker. It is JFK, A Complete Biography, 1917 to 1963, by William H. A. Carr. So, I unfortunately didn't peel that ugly sticker off of it, but this I picked up at a liquidation store that's in town. They have a very small book section, but I'll always take a look, you know. And I've been recently starting to pick up some more nonfiction lately, especially like when it comes to biographies and like celebrity written books and stuff like that. I guess really no particular reason, excuse me, as other than I feel like maybe they'll become rare later at some point. But if not, it's just kind of something cool to have, you know. Let's see. Also from the liquidation place is Luann Pig in Witch Lady. There we go. Pretty cool back cover, actually, too. But, yeah, just seemed like a neat little kid's horror book, you know. I really love vintage children's books, especially horror books, so... yeah, I always pick them up when I see them, because they're usually cheap enough anyway, so... Let's see. What was this from? I don't think that was it. Alrighty, next up we have She Died a Lady. Also picked up from the liquidation store. Very nice vintage. I would assume it's probably like maybe a mystery, possibly hard-boiled like crime, something like that. But I always pick these up when I see them. Let's see. Next we have The Smooth Face of Evil by Margaret York. Again, another one that seems to be probably like a murder mystery, hard-boiled detective book. But I always like the covers on them. like I said, these are also kind of like some photorealism that are not like actual photographs, but like the painting style is photorealism. Let's see. Next, I picked up, I believe this was also, yep, from the liquidation store. Let's see. We have The Stairway to Forever and Book 2, Monsters and Magicians. And these are by Robert Adams. Some cool looking sci-fi books here. Yeah, I'd say sci-fi, probably. But, yeah. I've been kind of trying to pick up more like sci-fi adventure series as well, too, because I've been seeing those starting to kind of gain a little popularity as well, so... I as much as I mention like popularity and rarity and value and stuff like that, I never like genuinely go out of my way to look for expensive like books that I think are going to be worth something to sell later. Like if anything, I grab them because I like them, and if it's a double, I usually use them for trading anyway. So let's see. Also from the liquidation sale is Poison by Ed McBain. Now, I have a friend on Facebook who loves Ed McBain, and anytime I see him post the covers, they're always really they're really really awesome for like police novels. Like they're really good. Like even this one is really nice. I kind of like how it almost feels like a comic book, like an early like say maybe like a late 80s, early 90s kind of grungy. The like the Ninja Turtles, like first movie, that kind of style, the dark grunginess of the early 90s that I love. I haven't read anything by Ed McBain, but I do plan on changing that this year. Just because I hear a lot, he's written a lot of books, so he's got to be good, at least readable at that point, Alrighty, let's see what else I have here. Let's see. How about we go with the usual bookstore I go to. So first I picked up did I get this from the bookstore? I don't remember where I got this one, but anyway, it's The Phantom Toll Booth. And that is by Norton Juster. I picked this up because the story sounds pretty fun. I think it'd be a really nice bedtime story for my kids and I. And, yeah, it just seems like it would be fun. Oh, man, my face is switchy. Next, I picked up The World's Great Unsolved Mysteries, edited by Martin Eben. So, not a particularly great cover, but, I love, like, unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. I remember as a kid, probably back in, like, 5th grade, that's when I really started to get into, like, like, Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and, like, stuff like that. I would, like... there was this one book in the library I would constantly borrow because it was all about that stuff and, like, people hunting them and stuff like that. It was really cool, so... Excuse me. So that book kind of, like, really gave a foothold into my love for folklore and things like that, so... Pretty excited about that one. Next is Monkey Station by Ardath Mehar and Ron Fortier. With a really awesome cover. I really like this cover a lot. I've seen this like quite a few times when I've been going to that used bookstore, and I just never picked it up, mainly because of the back. But I was finally like, excuse me. I was finally like, you know what? I'm gonna bite the bullet on it. Just get it. It's $2. What's it gonna hurt? And so yeah, I'm actually really excited to finally have picked this up after looking at it so many times. Yeah, it almost looks like kind of like a Planet of the Apes meets 28 Days Later kind of thing. So sounds pretty interesting. Let's see. Next, I picked up Stage Fright by Claire McNally. So another Claire McNally book. This one with some really nice step back art here. Well, maybe not super nice, but you know, I'll never pass up a step back art. So yeah. Let's see. Next, I picked up Rapture by Thomas Tessier. Kind of a funky looking cover, if I'm going to be totally honest. Like, it almost seems young adult. But I really love covers that feature windows. I don't know, I think that's always like a really eerie feeling, is like somebody peeking through your window and spying on you and stuff like that. So those kind of covers always really grab my attention. Let's see. Next we have Anthology by Piers Anthony. So, pretty interesting title. I can't lie. I don't think I've ever heard a book simply titled Anthology before. So, yeah, but it's got a good mix of everything. It seems. I'm actually just reading the back now. It says, from humor to horror, fantasy to frenzy, interstellar salesmen and galactic orthodontists, time-space spanning puppy dogs, and transdimensional love, sentient clouds, lethal fogs, strange birds, and stranger customs. All are just part of the wild imagination and candid remembrances of international best-selling author Piers Anthony, including a very personal history, the taboo-shattering stories In the Barn, Up Schist Creek, The Bridge, and On the Uses of Torture, and the Hugo-nominated Getting Through University. That actually sounds great. You know, and I do see Piers Anthony a lot. I see his name mentioned quite a lot. I see a lot of his books around. Honestly, I think I'm going to give it a shot. It sounds awesome. You know, especially with the multi-genre aspect of it. I love when a writer isn't scared to break out of their molding, so to say. You know, someone who's not afraid to kind of like, you know what, I usually write adventures, let me try a horror book. I usually write horror, let me try a romance novel. You know, it may not come out great, but I think, you know, it's a good thing for every writer to do, is, you know, just try. Let's see. Next up is A Rose for Her Grave by Anne Rule. This I actually picked up at the thrift store book sale, the $6 a bag sale. So I have a ton of Anne Rule's works. I love her writing as well. If you're a true crime fan and you've never read any of Anne Rule's work, absolutely pick up anything by her. If I had to recommend, definitely check out The Stranger Beside Me. You won't find a better book on Ted Bundy, movie, documentary, anything. You won't find anything better on Ted Bundy like that book. But Anne Rule's incredibly talented. Let's see. Next up from that book sale, I surprisingly found The House of Doors by Brian Lumley. So, sorry, just a sec. Excuse me. So I originally wasn't even going to go to this sale because it was like, I don't know. Thrift stores are usually very hit or miss for me. It's like, yeah, I found some great stuff in thrift stores. 9 out of 10 times I don't do so hot. But my wife was the one that kind of pushed me out the door. She's like, you know what? Just go have fun. You've been in the house all winter, you know, just go. And that was kind of my first trip out book hunting. So, yeah, I really owe this find to my wife. Because, like I said, I wasn't going to go, but I'm really happy I did. So, yeah, really excited to add another Lumley to the collection. But yeah, while I was at that book sale, it was, it was really kind of hard for me to like really enjoy myself because there was this guy next to me and he had his scanning app open and he's just picking books off the shelves and scanning it to see what's worth this and that. And I'm just like, you know, it just really sucks. As someone who like has put in the time and the effort to like educate myself, not out of a need for money, but out of pure passion, it's just aggravating to sit there and watch somebody go like, oh, well, this isn't worth anything. This isn't worth anything. This is worth, oh, I can sell this and da da da. Like, you know, it just frustrates me. You know what I mean? Like, don't be a jerk and sit in front of one shelf for 10 minutes. Well, you know, I know what I'm looking for. I know how to scan for the titles I'm looking for. And you're just sitting there like randomly pulling off every single book to see what you can sell and what you can't. Just scummy to me. I hate it. But anyway, he ended up losing out in the end because I found all the stuff I wanted that he missed over. So, which one of them being Obsessed by Ted Dekker. Now, haven't read any of Ted's work, but I do have one other book by him. Let's see. Next up, I picked up Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now, I was not an Indiana Jones fan as a kid. I don't know, I never really saw it. Like, it never, like, came across my attention, I guess. Like, nobody in my family was really into it. None of my friends were really into it, so I do remember, like, my dad watching it one time, and was it Temple of Doom where the guy eats the monkey brains? I think that's, like, the only time I've ever seen anything Indiana Jones, and, like, I was a kid at the time, so it freaked me out, and I just never got around to just watching it, I guess, but, I just genuinely don't think it would be something I'd be interested in anyway. I'm not really huge on the adventure genre. Not that it's boring or anything. It's just not for me. Let's see. Next, I found The Ghosts of War by Daniel Cohen. Again, I found this in the kids section of that thrift store. And have never heard of this, never seen it, nothing about this. So I was like, oh man, that's a definite grab. Like, the cover's just great. I love it. Super cool cover. Yeah, it's got actually 18 stories in it. They're very short, but I like that. Let's see. Next I picked up A Treasury of Giant and Monster Stories. Yeah, I really love books like this that like compile fairy tales. I love fairy tales, so things like this are immediate grabs for me. I love being able to just pick them up randomly and just kind of see, you know, what it has to offer, what the stories are like. Yeah, so anytime I see something like a compilation or an anthology of folklores or fairy tales, I always grab them. Alrighty, let's see. Next up from the thrift store, I picked up Haunted Houses by Jason Friedman. Found this tucked away in the kids section as well. And this is actually kind of uncommon. Once I did a little research, I was like, oh wow, this is actually goes for about $20, $25. So I was pretty psyched to have found it. I was like, cool. Let's see. Alrighty. So the next two here I found are My Teacher Fried My Brains and My Teacher Flunked the Planet. I unfortunately could not find My Teacher is an Alien, which I know is the very first one in this series. So, but I'm happy to have found these. I'm honestly going to assume that these are actually harder to find than the first one. So, I'm Unfortunately, never read these as a kid. I read a lot of Wayside School. I love Wayside School, and Goosebumps. So missed these, but happy to have found them. Let's see. I just put some books down from that. There we go. Next, I picked up Fire Hunter by Jim. Can't even attempt that last name. Kelgard. I apologize for the absolute, I'm sure, smattering of that name, but yeah, a little rip on the cover, but that's okay. This is actually something else that's going for about $25-$30. So, and these always kind of remind me, they remind me of my dad. Like back when I was a kid and I used to go through my parents' dresser and stuff. My dad would have his Tarzan books in his dresser, so I always used to like to look at the covers. I couldn't read any of them because they were all in Portuguese, but yeah, definitely reminds me of when I was a kid and looking through my dad's stuff. So, pretty happy to have found that. Next, I picked up Women in Fiction, short stories by and about women. Yeah, I picked this up because as I've started to expand more in my reading, I find that I really enjoy a lot of women authors. Like Diana Henstall wrote Friend, one of my absolute favorite books. Joan Sampson wrote The Auctioneer. Karen Thompson Walker wrote The Age of Miracles. And yeah, so I'm pretty excited to actually dive into this as well. So, I'm always about, as long as the story's good, I don't care who wrote it. But I usually tend to prefer female characters that are written by women. Not saying that all men write terrible female characters. It's just a lot of them kind of tend to fall into the cliche of what a woman character is supposed to be. And I say that very quote unquote supposed to be. So I always really enjoy when women throw their hat into the ring, essentially. But yeah, very excited to have picked that up. Let's see. Next, I picked up The Rocketeer by Ron Fonts. I'm not super familiar with The Rocketeer. Gosh. For some reason, all I can really think of is that, I can't even remember the name. I want to say it's Ultraman from Japan or something back that used to fight Godzilla and stuff. I can't remember his name. I really want to say it's Ultraman, but maybe it is the Rocketeer. I don't know. I was never big into kaiju as a kid, so I apologize. Somebody please let me know if it was Rocketeer that I'm thinking of or whatever that character is. I genuinely don't remember. Let's see. Next, I picked up The Vampire State Building. And really cool cover. I love the title. I think that's an awesome play on words. I've never heard that before. Excuse me. And yeah, I think that's just another thing I really love about children's books is the concept can be so ridiculous, but so awesome at the same time. Like a vampire running the White House. Just take a look at some of the adult vampire we have. Obviously, there's Dracula and Salem's Lot and They Thirst, where they're taking over towns and cities and da-da-da. And it's just what if the president was a vampire, I just think that's kind of cool. Let's see. Next, I grabbed Bruce Koval's Book of Monsters, Tales to Give You the Creeps. This is definitely pretty cool. Yep, 13 thrills, 13 chills. But, yeah, like stuff like this. Oh, Bloody Mary. That's so funny. I remember back in, I think it was third or fourth grade, was the first time I ever heard the tale of Bloody Mary. And oh my goodness. That like had my whole school in like a grip of terror. Like kids would like, I remember we would make up stories being like, oh yeah, I totally said it in the bathroom last night and nothing happened, or you know, my lights went out and that, like just all this craziness. And it's just fun to think about, you know. Let's see. Next, I picked up Black Sunday by Thomas Harris. It's a double for me, but for those who are unfamiliar, Thomas Harris wrote Silence of the Lambs, so I'm pretty sure this is more of a thriller. But yeah, it's a double, so I'll either sell it or trade it. Arg, my nose. Let's see. Next, I picked up The Black Cat by Robert Poe. Which I also have another book by Robert Poe. I'll see if I can kind of bend to see it here. Oh, my back. I think it was like The Return of the House of Usher or something like that. It's S. Where's R? S. I can't see it from here, but yeah. So yeah, pretty excited to have found another book by Robert Poe here. This one I was super psyched to find. If you saw my post on the community page, you'll have seen this one. Flood by Richard Martin Stern. Beautiful cover, font. Love the color scheme. I love disaster novels. This is one I've never heard of. So, yeah, I was psyched to have found this. Really, really, really excited to have found this. Yeah, it's beautiful looking cover. Beautiful. And floods are actually like kind of like one of my biggest fears of happening as far as a natural disaster, because I'm terrified of drowning. So I think that would be one of the worst ways to go, is to in a flood. Let's see. Next, I picked up Wolf by Gillian Cross. This I got at the used bookstore I go to. It's another point horror. With you can actually see the face and the eyes there, which is a really nice little detail, but overall detail on the book is genuinely really beautiful. You know, again, I feel like a lot of young adult point horror didn't get sort of the love it needed, but and this one definitely did. Like I said, the details on that is gorgeous. Next up, I picked up The Evil Returns by Hubie Cave. Which I think it's either got to be the sequel or maybe it is a trilogy. I don't know. I know he has a book called The Evil, and then he has another book called Shadow of Evil, I believe. Let me see. That one I can at least, I think, see from here. Storm, no, she wakes. Right there, Shades of Evil, up here. Just out of frame here. But, yeah. I assume is part of that storyline. Next I picked up, it was kind of interesting, this was at the used bookstore, Players at the Game of People by John Brunner. And this just seems like a really awesome cover. I love the title. Like, that sounds like a really interesting title. But, yeah. Let's see. Games people play, or games played with people. War Hero, Jet Setter, Gourmet. Godwin Harpenshield was all of these and more. His life was a game played among the beautiful people whose fame, wealth, and power set them above the law and beyond the laws of nature. Because of a simple bargain that all the beautiful people made, Godwin's every desire was his for the asking. Seduced by luxury, Godwin never doubted his fortune, never wondered about his mysterious patrons. Then the game turned ugly. Suddenly the ante was raised, and the game was real. The stakes were his future, his sanity, and possibly his very soul. All Godwin Harpenshield had to discover was, what are the rules of the game? And who or what were using them to play. So yeah, definitely sounds pretty interesting. This next one I found at the thrift store, and I was psyched because it's one I've eyed for a while now, and I'm so happy to have found it in the wild. And that is Horrors, edited by Charles L. Grant. Yeah, I mean, just look at that lineup right off the bat. We got Stephen King, Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, William Nolan. Who else is in here? Let's see. David Morrell, Charles L. Grant, Alan Dean Foster. Let's see. Speaking of which, this actually has The Monkey by Stephen King, so the movie looks great. I definitely want to check it out, and it was one of my favorite short stories in... Was it Skeleton Crew? It was Skeleton Crew, yeah. So I was really excited to finally stumble upon a copy of this. I'm hoping I can find the sequel one day, but, I'm in no rush. Patience pays off. Let's see. This next one, again, from the thrift store, I picked up for the title, but the cover is just as good. And this is called Touch Not the Cat by Mary Stewart. And, yeah. Excuse me. Very interesting title, very interesting cover, and it's apparently about ESP. So, yeah, this is another, like, it's exactly like when I picked up another Roadside Attraction by Tom Robbins. The title, the cover, everything about it just made me want to pick it up and get it. So, I've heard someone say it's actually really good. A buddy of mine, Henry, actually just found this literally like a week after I did too, and he said the same thing. He's like, the title sounded great, so I just grabbed it. So, I definitely want to check this out. Definitely want to check that out. Next up, this was from the used bookstore, is Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury. Really nice cover. Kind of reminds me of Oliver Twist in a way. Not Oliver Twist. Huckleberry Finn. That's what it is. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a read. I'm really hoping it's better than Something Wicked This Way Comes. I'm just not crazy about Bradbury's prose. I think it's way too flowery to the point where I think the focus on the story is lost in favor of trying to make this super poetic prose. So I'm hoping it's a little better. Next, I picked up Pirates of Venus by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I picked it up because I know he writes the Tarzan series. And I feel like I've heard of this title somewhere before. But I know nothing about it, but I still picked it up. Let's see. Next, I picked up Monster Street, The Boy Who Cried Werewolf by J.H. Reynolds. And, yeah, again, probably something fun for me to read to my kids during Halloween this year. Seeing, this one is The Celery Stalks at Midnight. And this is apparently part of the Bunnicula series. I never read any of Bunnicula as a kid. Never really knew it was a thing until I got much older, like adult in my 20s. But yeah, I love play on words like that, like the kind of pun, like this reminds me of the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight by R.L. Stine. So I love that. I just think that's really funny. Let's see. Next up, I picked up Programmed for Terror by Carol H. Berman. So, looks like a pretty cheesy 90s young adult horror. Let's see. Next, I picked up this trade paperback copy of The House by Bentley Little. Still haven't read anything by Little, but I will get there eventually. Let's see. This one I picked up at the thrift store. And this is called In the Event of My Death by Carlene Thompson. So, yeah. Gorgeous cover. Again, I love houses on covers, especially like eerie looking houses like that, where it's like just hitting about dusk here, but then there's like these lights on in the front. The title's fantastic. I love that title. And yeah, it was just something I had to pick up. But it seems kind of like a murder mystery almost. But I definitely want to check it out. It looks fun. Sounds great. And I will get to that eventually. Let's see. Where am I now? Okay. Alright, so these next few are actually from Books by the Lake, one of my favorite used bookstores. So yeah, let's get into it. First off is Black Oak, Winter Night by Charles Grant. Now, I think this is part of a series. It is. Yes. So there's Black Oak Genesis and Black Oak The Hush of Dark Wings, which I, of course, do not own. I've never heard of the series until I found this. So just two more to look out for. Let's see. Next up is Gemini by Domini Taylor. Awesome cover. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of it's like that book, The Beast. Basically, it has like kind of like this little the art style. It's the art style. I want to say, I'm gonna go with early to mid 80s. Let's see, 84. There we go. So yeah, so right around that era. Definitely excited to add that. Next up is a double for me. The Okra Mask by Rex Wiseman. Excuse me. But yeah, it's a double. I already own a copy, so this will be up for trade. Next, I found The Other by Thomas Tryon. And I am thrilled to have found this. I actually already own a copy that was very generously sent to me by my buddy Corey. Hey Corey. Yeah. Unfortunately, that copy is like very brittle. Or is it, I'm thinking of maybe the Godsend is what I'm thinking of and not the other. But I think my copy of the other is also a little on the brittle side. Either way, I now have a reader's copy. I can finally read it like I wanted to. And I can keep Corey's copy in better condition now. So, very excited to have found another copy of this. Oh, this next one I was super excited to have found. And that is an advanced reader's copy of A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. I love finding advanced reader copies in the wild. I think it's so cool, so exciting. It's almost like you're holding a piece of history in your hands, something that went on to be, a best-selling book. You're holding, like, almost its origins in your hands, So, I love this book. This is probably one of my favorite books ever written. I even have, like a special edition of this book, Cemetery Dance Edition. Maybe I'll do a video on that if you guys are interested. I can show off some of my special edition hardcovers if you guys are interested. Let me know. But, yeah, if you haven't read A Simple Plan, absolutely go read it. It's a thriller. Fantastic book. Will make your head spin. Awesome story. Let's see. Next, I found The Unforgiven by Patricia J. McDonald. Very eerie cover. Like, the almost, like, photo negative face is, like, something that really creeps me out. I don't know why. It's something that just makes me really uncomfortable to stare at. It almost kind of reminds me of, that viral thing that was going around a couple years ago, Momo, where it was, like, people were scaring kids with it or whatever, and the creator had to destroy it. But, yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Unfortunately, not the paperback version, but I also have an entire bin of book club edition horror books that I can add to the collection now. Next, we have The Vampire Diaries, The Fury, which is Volume 3 of the Vampire Diary series. And, yeah, I actually own... I think I have the first or the second book in this title, which I didn't even know until I had started alphabetizing my books. So, yeah. That was kind of a neat surprise. Next up is Dracula by Bram Stoker, with an incredibly cheesy cover. It is so bad, it is great. But it's a cover of Dracula I do not own, and it has been added to the collection now. Let's see. Next up is Necessity by Brian Garfield. And this is a really neat cover. I really like that. I really like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. Like, it's simple but effective. I know I say that a lot in a lot of my haul videos, but, I mean, it's just kind of true. Sometimes simple is really effective, and I like that with this. I think the color scheme is great. Yeah, and even as, like, small as the woman is in this, there's still some, wonderful detail. The detail was not lost on it, so... Yeah, never heard of it, but glad to have it now. Next up is Shattered Echoes by Barbara Shapiro. Yep, never heard of it, but, yeah. Next we have Tender Prey by Patricia Roberts. And a really nice cover, with the photorealism here. Very eerie. So that one looks pretty cool. Let's see. Next up is The Rishi, a novel by Leo Giraud Jr., which it almost seems like a really bad AI cover. But I love it. I really like the color as well, like this fuchsia or a magenta. Very rare in covers. In general, honestly, in any book I've seen, very rare to see a fuchsia / magenta color. But I think it looks great. It really makes the title pop for sure. I've never heard of it. Quite a beast of a book, though. This thing is at oh my goodness, what is this? It's even got a glossary at the end. Holy moly. Wow, I've never seen that. Wow. Yeah, it's about 460 pages with a glossary. I've never seen that before. And let's see. Last but not least from the used bookstore is Nightmare Logic by Matthew Hall. Sweet cover. Definitely really cool. And the concept sounds pretty interesting. Apparently, a girl that has an affinity for scorpions. So I can't say I've read any scorpion horror before, so I'm pretty excited to kind of get into that. Although the reviews on Goodreads are not the greatest, I usually don't let that deter me from reading something. I like to read and make my own judgment on that. Excuse me. So, the final part of my haul is actually really special to me because it was the day my uncle and I got to go out shopping together. My uncle essentially got me into collecting. He has been an antique dealer his entire life, from the mid-70s. So, some of my fondest memories as a kid is, him and I going to thrift stores and just checking out all the cool stuff I've never seen before. And he knew everything about everything. He could tell you where a piece of furniture, what country it came from, what time period it was. And it always just fascinated me how much he knew. And, that's just kind of where my love for collecting grew. So, we don't really get a lot of time to hang out together. So it was really nice just him and I literally spending the whole day together, going out, hunting. We went to places we've never been before. We literally drove 2 hours out, hitting every used bookstore, thrift store, junk shop we could find. And, it was really fun. It really, like I said, took me back to my childhood and, really reminded me why I love collecting, why this is who I am, why I am the way I am. But, yeah, so let's get into the haul. So, first up, I picked up The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. Now, this was one I was going to buy on release day, but, after I had started to read more of Tremblay's work, and I just kind of started to become less and less of a fan, I just didn't bother with this, especially since I've heard it has yet another ambiguous ending. I just wasn't going to go out of my way to pay full price for it. And I didn't. Picked it up for $1. I don't know if I'll even ever read it, but for $1, I couldn't pass it up. Let's see. Next up, I picked up Lizzie by Frank Spearing. Which was really interesting because Frank Spearing actually wrote a horror book, Berserker. So that's instantly how, I knew the name right away. And I'm very familiar with the Lizzie Borden story because I lived about 30 minutes from where it happened. For those who aren't aware, Lizzie Borden is a very famous tale. There's a rhyme about it. Lizzie Borden had an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she had seen what she had done, she gave her father 41 or something like that. But yeah, it tells the story of Lizzie Borden, young teenage girl who killed her father and stepmother with an axe. But yeah, like I said, I picked it up because I know the story, I know Frank's name, so it was just kind of mind-blowing to see that. Let's see. Next, I picked up Nightmare Hall, The Nightwalker by Diane Ho. And that is some YA horror, which picked up for a whole quarter, which is really nice. Like I said, that's where sort of the, educating yourself on stuff comes into play. The bookseller had this for 25 cents. Excuse me, and these go for about $13, $14 each. So that was a no-brainer. Next, I picked up The Hour of the Gate by Alan Dean Foster. Pretty interesting cover. I read the blurb on the back as well. It sounds insane. But, yeah, Alan Dean Foster wrote Alien and has done a lot of other novelizations. So I usually pick up his fantasy work when I see it. Let's see. Next, I picked up The Covenant of the Flame by David Morrell. Let's see. Yeah, so David Morrell actually wrote Rambo. He wrote First Blood, creating the Rambo character. So that's kind of why I picked it up. Because, yeah, like I said, I'm familiar with the name. So I was like, oh, looks like he wrote like sort of like a fantasy or something. So just picked it up. Why not? Let's see. Next, I picked up Reliquary by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Childs. Reliquary or something. I have no idea. I picked it up because I know it's a sequel to Relic. I don't have Relic, but I have heard of the book. And I've seen that the sequel is actually kind of hard to get at, so I made sure I grabbed it. Next, I grabbed Bio of a Space Tyrant. Oh, it's Piers Anthony, Bio of a Space Tyrant, Volume 4. Again, I pick up Piers Anthony when I see him, Alrighty, let's see. Ooh. Next, I grabbed The Bilbao Looking Glass by Charlotte MacLeod. Love the cover. Really awesome cover. Next I picked up Suffer the Children by John Saul. I always pick up this book just because it is such a historic piece of horror literature, that it's just, I pick it up whenever I see it, because, I'm sure somebody will want it, need it. I feel like this is different than the copy I have for some reason. STU, come on, where's Suffer the Children? It's right behind me. Oh, I can't bend that way in my back. Oh. Anyway, for some reason I feel like my cover doesn't have the blood on the doll, but I'm going to have to check that. That's going to bother me if I don't. It's got to be different. Yeah, because the coloring on that one is purple, but I'll check after. Let's see. Next, I picked up Servants of Chaos by Dawn Diamasa. Definitely the early 2000s book cover I can see. I can almost tell right off the bat where it's, yep, 2002. So it's not quite in the realm of awful, but definitely the quality has kind of tanked since the 80s. But not quite hitting, you know, the awfulness that we have today. Let's see. Next I picked up, hey, wait a minute, I wrote a book by John Madden. Had no idea he ever wrote a book, but figured, what the heck, why not grab it? I feel like it'd be something unique on my shelves. I was big into football as a kid, but as I got older and realized that I sucked at it, I just lost interest in it, so. Plus, it was just kind of boring. It's always the same stuff, back and forth, over and over again, but I'm not going to rant about sports. That was actually the very first stop my uncle and I went to was at a Salvation Army, and they had a cart full of free books, so that was free. Also free was Misfire by Jonathan Evans. Pretty cool cover. It's got some step back art here. Definitely very James Bond-ish. Yeah, but like I'm not used to step back art in like action novels or anything. So when was this? 1980. That almost kind of looks like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Almost. Very small semblance. Next, I picked up Island by Peter Benchley. I already own it, but it was free, so I wasn't just going to leave it there. Next up is Superman, Last Son of Krypton. I found this at an antique shop for $5, and I was like, yeah. And to be totally honest, I hate Superman. I don't like him as a superhero at all. I'm not even huge into superheroes, but like, I don't like Superman at all. I'm sorry. I think he's so boring. Again, another rant for another time. But don't come from my head. I don't like Superman. This one I was actually really excited to find. It's called The Arrow Book of Ghost Stories. Really awesome cover. And this is like children's ghost stories from 1960. 1963 this was printed. And that's just kind of mind-blowing to me. I was just like, wow. Of course, my uncle's right next to me. He's like, dude, you're calling me ancient at this point. And I just laughed, but it's just kind of crazy to find like children's horror this early on. You know what I mean? I feel like in the 60s it was almost unheard of to be telling horror stories to kids. So, yeah. Let's see. So the final stack I got was at this bookstore called the Bookmobile. And I went in and, I kind of browsed and I asked the guy, I was like, hey, do you have a horror section? And kind of laughed and he was like, well, I've got 2 down here and my other horror section over there, I've got about 3 or 4. He's like, I finally get enough horror books to make a horror section and then everybody comes and picks them clean. I was like, okay, I'll go. I said, let me do my looking. And right off the bat, I found Night of the Claw by Jay Ramsey, a.k.a. Ramsey Campbell. So that was pretty awesome. Let's see. Next, I found this book called Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And, yeah, I've never heard of it before, but it has a really gorgeous cover. And I saw that it goes for about $15 to $20 online, so I was like, hey, why not? Next, I found Outrageous Fortune by Meredith Land Machin. Really cool cover. Definitely has a Michael Myers vibe to it for sure. Okay. Next up, I picked up The Ghost Way by Tony Hillerman. Love the cover on that. I love the art style. It very much reminds me of Desperation and the Regulators by Stephen King. So, yeah, definitely really happy about that. Let's see. Next, I grabbed Omega War Machine by Patrick F. Rogers. Just seemed like a pretty cool cover, to be honest. I'll probably end up just selling this. But it looks pretty cool. Next, I grabbed Dominion by Fred Saberhagen. You know, I've never looked up Fred's bibliography, but this guy has written a ton of books just from what I've found in the wild. You know, from never hearing of him, I have a lot of his stuff. And a lot of it revolves around vampires. So, yeah, definitely pretty cool. Next, I grabbed The Nightmare House by Douglas Clegg. Again, Clegg is another one. I think I only have one other book by. But, I've never heard anything about him. Never heard one way or the other how his work is, so... let's see. Next, I picked up Mantis by Richard LaPlante, which I've never seen this cover before. I have that really classic cover that it has, but I've never seen this one before. So I guess this is technically a double, but no, it's not, because I don't have the cover. I don't trade covers I don't have. Let's see. Next, I grabbed In the Belly of the Beast, Letters from Prison by Jack Henry Abbott. And I've heard a lot of interesting things about this book. And I also grabbed it because my wife works in corrections. So I've heard this is like about as raw of a look inside of prison as you're going to get. So I definitely grabbed this one. Next is The Girl in a Swing by Richard Adams. Pretty neat. Never heard of it. Let's see. Next is Blood Sisters by Rosemary Santini. Never heard of it. I'm not even sure what genre this would be considered. So, I don't know. It looks like it would be horror, but if maybe like a mystery or something, but I took a shot on it. Let's see. Next, I grabbed the Nightmare Hall. 2 Nightmare Halls, Win, Lose, or Die, and The Coffin, both by Diane Ho. And both 25 cents each. And last, but certainly not least, my absolute favorite find of the day, of the month. It is something I've been after for a few years now, and when I saw it, I was like literally shaking, and I called my uncle over, and I was like, I can't believe I just found this. And it reminds me, like I said, of why I love hunting so much. It's the excitement of finding something you've been wanting for so long and finally finding it. And not only that, like, I got to do it with my uncle, so it really adds a lot of sentimental value to this book now. It's like the reason why I love hunting, I got to share with the person I love hunting with. And I found this not even in the horror section, and this is why I always say check every shelf, because you just don't know what, like, as much as I know booksellers try to keep it organized and do their best research and things like that, they're going to mess up something. They're going to miss something. And even the owner himself was like, I only recently started this horror section. I wasn't going to go through my entire store and start moving all the horror over to one section, which is also why I say educating yourself on your hobby is how you get stuff like this. But I found Audrey Rose by Frank D. Felitta. And I have been after this for so long that I didn't want to pay the price for it. And instead of the normal price tag on this, I paid a whopping $1.75. After years of hunting and being patient, I finally own a copy of this in really good condition, too. And like I said, I paid a fraction of what online pricing goes for. Oh, but yeah, so that's my haul for February, everyone. Like I said, a very, very plentiful month. Like, way better than I ever thought I was going to do this month. And, happy to have found a personal grail of mine and doing it with somebody I love to do it with. But that's going to be it for me today, everyone. My back's starting to really hurt, so I'm going to try and crawl downstairs, get some medicine, and maybe take a nap. But thank you all so much for watching. If you've stayed this long, I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all of your time. Yeah, so I'll link some of my other book hauls down in the description below. I'll leave some of my book reviews if you want to check some of my other videos out. And feel free to sub if you want to see some stuff in the future. But until then, take care of yourselves and everyone else. Later.